Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. We're continuing our summer blockbusters today. I'm holed up with Andrew and Kyle. Andrew, are you feeling better today?
Yeah, thrilled. Thrilled to be alive. Thrilled to be thriving and living in this world and working a 9-hour day on top of shitting my brains out and having a fever. Just blessed.
Why didn't you just take the day off?
If I take a day off, I'm going to fall behind and have like 400 emails to read, and I just don't want to do that to myself.
400 emails is a lot.
That's how busy it is right now. I probably get 15 emails every 5-10 minutes.
That's the life of living in corporate America. Well, I'm sorry you're having to deal with that, but thankfully you can join us today. We can take a little bit off your plate and your mind by having another wonderful episode as we continue on our summer blockbusters here. Kyle, before we get started today, we watched The Rock, and the one I'm very excited for. But can you tell us a little bit about your energy levels today in prison terms?
In prison terms? No. So I'm recovering from getting my kneecap blown out in a yard fight that I had nothing to do with at all. I was just caught in the crossfire, and somebody kneecapped me with a barbell, 45-pound barbell, swinging it like a bat, hit me in the knee. Can't really walk right anymore, but I'm mostly better. In that time, I've gotten really good at brewing my own prison wine. By getting really good at it, I mean there's alcohol in it. It's mostly, a lot of the times, fecal matter. But people keep on getting botulism when I make these batches. And I'm trying to also take out one of the Aryan Brotherhood leaders.
Oh, wow.
Just because I don't like the cut of his jib. So I've been trying to get him one of those bad batches, but he's not getting the good batches. So I finally just brewed another batch of it. I've sent it out to people, and I get word that the Aryan Brotherhood leader has decided, his name's Tom. Tom has decided to start drinking some of...
What's his last name? We need a last name, because...
It's Chins. C-H-I-N-S. Chins.
Okay, cool.
Tom Chins. Mr. Chins is definitely getting lit off the sauce, and he comes to congratulate me. So I'm in my cell, and he's there, and he is trying to back me into a corner.
Uh-oh.
And all of a sudden, he just starts showing signs of botulism or botuli, very aggressively and acute. And he, I believe, is vomiting blood at the moment, from what I can tell. And I start gloating to him, and I say, this is what happens when you're a racist piece of shit. You're going to get what's coming up to you. And he's trying to get after me, but he can't because he's incapacitated. But I have a bum leg, so really it's a fair fight. So we start going at it, beating each other with whatever we can. I try to wrap around some sheets around his neck to get him out that way. We're going after it right now. Things are going well for me. But one of his friends shows up and beats me over the head and kills me. So.
Okay, I really don't know what kind of journey we were on in the one. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what is an adjective to sum all of that up?
I would say... Oh, what's a good adjective?
Yeah.
Grim.
Or grim, okay. That's your move. Grim. Cool.
Not really. It doesn't encapsulate everything.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you started to at least share something, so I appreciate it.
And I think Andrew is suffering from botulism right now, so I think it tied the whole episode together, it felt like.
I'm mourning the loss of Senator Lindsey Graham, if we're being honest.
Oh, sorry about that, Andrew.
Yeah,
Grinder a bunch?
I was on his grinder. He always hit me up, and I never really reciprocated. I was a little too aggressive, and I just wasn't into it.
That's probably pretty smart on your behalf.
Yeah, I could tell he had a good heart. He was a sweet soul, though.
And you can tell that when you kiss somebody?
Did you say, do you tell that to someone when you piss on them or kiss them?
No, I said I didn't know you could tell that when you kiss somebody.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, for sure.
I did a lot of mouth stuff, right?
God. Speaking of a lot of mouse stuff, we watched The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. And Ed Harris.
And Ed
Don't leave
Harris.
his name out of this.
We can't forget about Ed Harris. What a star-studded cast we had here. Directed by a very young Michael Bay, too.
Bay.
So we had a little bit of everything. And guess who it was produced by, Andrew?
Wasn't it produced? Was it Bruckheimer? I thought it was Michael Bay.
It was Bruckheimer and also produced by Sean Connery himself, too. So we'll get into that.
But, wow.
But Andrew, this week we're going to start with you. What do you remember about The Rock as a kid? Do you remember anything about it?
Absolutely nothing. This was the first time I had ever really heard of the movie. It was the first time seeing the movie. So there was no nostalgic connection, no memories from yesteryear. I knew absolutely nothing and was actually not shocked, but excited to see that Nick Cage and Sean Connery had teamed up for a feature film, a summer blockbuster, if you will. So yeah, I didn't know shit.
Okay.
I didn't know shit for Shia.
Cool. I thought this one would have been one you caught on TNT or something, but Kyle, do you remember much about this? I mean, you were a big Bond guy, so I'm sure that you watched this movie as a kid with Sean Connery in it.
Here's the deal. It was not a hard-to-find movie. Let's just say that. It was pretty everywhere. When this came out in 96, it was one of the bigger movies I remember coming out, to the point where we came together for Christmas with my mom's side of the family, which is the only side of the family we did Christmas with. We would watch movies every single year. And we watched, we'd watch Indiana Jones or some old, like Sound of Music or something. This one got on the rotation somehow because my dad and uncle fucking loved it. And we did watch it like a couple of times. And I remember renting this also as a kid. So I was exposed to this movie pretty early, but it was definitely on TV when we watched it, for the most part. But it's not like, for this to be rated R, it's not that bad of a rated R movie. It's really not.
Yeah.
There's some language. That's about it. Maybe a tiny bit of gore. But I remember being drawn to like the aesthetics of the movie and like the costumes and the set design, which were really good in this. And a lot of the shots were also really good in this movie.
This was Michael Bay before Michael Bay. Like this was like his like, I don't know if this was one of his first movies. I'm pretty sure it is, but it was before he got kind of tapped with the over the top stuff. I mean, this is before Armageddon, and he got to make a name for himself here. Kyle, I have a similar memory of this movie like you do. I remember growing up, my mom loved some cheesy action films. Like that's how I watched a lot of the films growing up that I did. She loved stuff like Armageddon and the kind of these over-the-top apocalyptic action thrillers. And I got to watch this one a lot as a kid. I didn't even really need to watch it this go around. I remember everything about this movie. And it's a comfort movie. It's a late-night special. Kyle, to your point, you mentioned, and I'm sure, Andrew, you remember a lot of those TNT, TBS, those Superstation movies. Yeah, this is one that came out a lot.
This is exactly one of those. I am surprised I never saw it. But when I was watching, like even like 20 minutes in, I was like, why did I never see this on AMC or TNT or USA back in the day? Did that not?
It does shock me because this does feel like one of those movies you would have watched a lot as a kid or in your teens.
For sure. For sure. It follows that same formula, not to get ahead of ourselves there, but it's of that ilk.
Yeah.
Of that ilk of all those movies. So.
And I loved it a lot as a kid. I found it, like to Kyle's point, the aesthetics were very pleasing. It's very snappy editing. So if you have ADHD, it is either over the top for you or just perfect.
Oh.
But another one of those Jamie Flanagan, how long did it take the editor to throw himself out of a third-story building?
Yes, and congratulations to the Flanagans. Jamie and Maddie just gave birth to their first child, little baby girl.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
A new member of Hold Up.
So sweet.
Yes. So, Jamie, you should have plenty of time to watch these movies while baby is sleeping and think genuinely about the different ways you would mutilate yourself so that you would never have to edit something like this again.
Yeah.
And please let us know, and please come on the show.
Yeah, please come on the show. And don't mutilate yourself before you come on the show. Like,
Don't-
maybe don't watch these movies then before you come on the show, and then you can watch them after. Then mutilate yourself. But congratulations to the Flanagans. I also have to say this, too. I say comfort food kind of movie, and I know, Andrew, you've got your own kind of list of those movies. Kyle, you as well. And they're not always going to be like the best movies, just kind of movies you put on in the background when you're doing nothing or it's late at night and you just kind of want something to like turn your brain off to. This is kind of in my rotation. That's why I've seen it a lot. I've even seen it multiple times as an adult, and I don't ever really pay attention to it. And so this is the first watch I've watched as an adult where I've actually sat down and just kind of like paid attention, took some notes like we do on this show. But I watched this movie a ton growing up. It was a big VHS seller as well, and it's a heavy-hitting action movie. It's got like an all-star cast. We got Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, and again, we talked about Nicolas Cage in the late 90s being at the height of his action career. Everybody was talking about Nick Cage. And to play the role he's playing here is a little weird, but we'll dive into that. But before we go any further, Andrew, what kind of numbers did this movie do?
That seemed to have raked it in big time. Budget, cool, $75 million.
Seems very low, by the way. That seems very low.
It honestly does for all of the Michael Bay shit that we were exposed to. Only $75 million for a worldwide gross of $335 million.
Damn.
So,
yeah, it really did rake it in.
For 96, it fucking killed.
Andrew, did you know that they filmed this on Alcatraz?
That makes sense. I guess they could create a set and make it identical, but if it's just a historic site with tours, I don't see why the Hollywood studio that created this wouldn't have gotten some sort of permission to actually film on site. I feel like it wouldn't have been as cool if it hadn't, personally.
They actually filmed on site while tours were going on in the 90s. So while you were touring Alcatraz, you could look around and see filming equipment. They actually got permission to use set. There's actually a rumor that Sean Connery wanted to live on site, and he built himself a cabin on the backside of the island so that he could live in Alcatraz. But that ended up being false. He actually didn't do that, but he did request to port his yacht next to Alcatraz, and he still got that denied too. So Sean Connery was not living near or on Alcatraz during the time of this filming. Kyle, I want to direct this to you since you're like our history nerd. Talk a little bit about Alcatraz for us, for someone who doesn't really know that much about Alcatraz. And before you see this movie, I think it's important to know a little bit about the island and the prison itself.
Yeah, so I can tell you, first of all, that I have been to Alcatraz.
No way. Are you serious?
Yes, when I was a child.
I've been as an adult. Andrew, have you been?
Of course not.
Oh, I was about to say we almost went 3 for 3, but
I've never been to San Francisco, unfortunately.
Great city, very fun.
We went when I was younger, and one of the things I do remember is how long it took to get there. It is not close to shore, y'all.
No,
I think a solid couple mile and a half or so.
It's like a 40-minute ferry ride over there, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. I wouldn't be able to remember, but it was somewhere along. It wasn't a 10-minute ride. I'll tell you that. It's very weird and unsettling. I do remember being in there, and it's exactly what it looks like. Is what they portrayed it as, just kind of paint peeling off stuff and just open rooms in general. But it was before it was actually a prison. It was a fort, and then it was converted to a prison after the Civil War and the Industrial Revolution and into the Roaring '20s, and that was when it was a military prison. So it had experience being a military prison first, and then a civilian prison later. People did not escape from there mostly because of its remoteness to the shore. And also the fact that the water is pretty fucking cold. It's really cold.
Yeah,
it's very
I
cold.
don't think it gets above
about
45
18 degrees above freezing.
Yeah.
No, it's about 50. It's about 50-ish, give or take.
Yeah. And with your body submerged in that too, like that hypothermia sets in I think a matter of 15 minutes if you're submerged in that
something
water.
like that. Yeah, somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes, you're going to be kind of fucked. Yeah. And here's a spoiler alert. I don't know many people that can swim that distance to shore. And like I said, I just looked it up. Island sits about 1.25 miles, about 2 kilometers away from San Francisco. So like I said, it is on average around a mile or farther from the closest land. And that does not mean that's the land that you would be able to swim to, because the currents are so fucking strong that you could try to set in a straight line, go for that shore, and you get swept out to fucking sea or die.
And that's why JFK shut it down in the 60s, because of its isolated location. It just made it super expensive to upkeep and tend to prisoners. And it was like, why are we doing this? This is way too much money, which on one hand, I get it. But on the other hand, like, I think Alcatraz is like not the ultimate prison, but its lore exists for a reason.
It housed the worst of the worst too, in its heyday.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons why they sent Al Capone there, was because of its remoteness, and like that was essentially a death sentence for him. And did he die of syphilis?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he died. I think he died or just out of prison from syphilis. So that was like him going there, and when the IRS was made and the Secret Service, which was to specifically track people like him during Prohibition and afterwards, regardless of what the morality of Prohibition was or not, it's still organized crime took over it. And they needed to put these people away. Like Andrew said, like the worst of the worst people away from everything, where they're not getting messages in and out very easily. They lose their influence. And like, there is a good reason why it was so scary. And I do remember being in there, and like, it is technically, it's considered haunted, using air quotes, but
if anything's going to be haunted, it's going to be Alcatraz. If anything brings spirits back, that's going to be Alcatraz and the Charleston jail are going to be two that are really going to be haunted.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here's a fun statistic: 36 inmates tried to escape, and there were 14 escape events involving 36 prisoners. The most famous was Frank Morris, John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, the brothers.
Yep. And I was going to bring that up.
They never found them. Yeah, they never found them.
There's no way that they escaped, I don't think. I think they died in the water. But
no, I think they died. Yeah, exactly.
But we don't know. We can't say that no one's ever escaped, because we don't know what happened to them. And there are conspiracy theories with them writing letters to family from aliases across the world. So there is reason to believe they could have escaped. But they show you all that in Alcatraz too, and you're like, there's no fucking way you guys made it on that raft made of like life vests. There is no way.
But there's a lot of fun stuff about it, and like, that's pedantic, and you can look up on your own time.
Right.
It was only actually a prison for about 30 years.
Right.
Another fun fact. The way that we all know it, it was only like that for about 30 years, which for something like that, it's not terribly long.
No. It lived its reputation in those 30 years. It had a nasty reputation among the criminal world and the law enforcement world. That's a place you didn't want to go as either. It was hard to get law enforcement officers to want to go and live on the island because they had no resources. They were around the most dangerous criminals ever. It was just hard life for both sides of the fence. It's crazy to hear those stories, and I recommend to everybody out there listening to this episode, go to San Francisco and go to Alcatraz. It is something you can't miss and you will love. But I think it's time to get into this movie. We talk about Alcatraz because this movie takes place in Alcatraz. As we said, it was filmed there, which is crazy. It's you don't see very many movies that's filmed on a national historic landmark. It's wild to me to even think about now that they were even granted permission. And they also got lucky, too, because it happened during a government shutdown in 95. So
no way.
So they were able to film some of it without tourist intervention. But there are plenty of people that reported being a tourist and seeing the filming locations and the cameras. Andrew, I want you to lead us off this week. We're going to find out if this movie holds up. Where does this movie start? Where does it take place?
I believe it starts off at a cemetery at the beginning. It's raining, a lot of rain, just kind of, those 90s action movies love to use rain for dramatic effect. Here at a cemetery, our main antagonist, if you will, General Hummel, is going up to some grave and tosses some flowers down, tells the gravesite, "I miss you a lot," throws the flowers. We look down, we see it's his wife. So right off the bat, we understand that this guy is in mourning. This guy is probably not mentally well. And I believe quickly after that, still raining, we transition to General Hummel showing up at some naval weapons base. Am I correct in this, Kyle? Am I
Yes.
I'm pretty spot on.
We kind of have that narration mode where he's talking to his wife, his dead wife. He's like saying, "I had to wait for you to pass before I did this. I don't want you to be disgraced by me." This is the start of one of my favorite antagonists in a movie. And we'll unravel why, but early on, he's very likable. And it's the perfect character for Ed Harris to play.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
Hated Michael Bay, by the way, during this filming process.
Ed Harris?
Hard to blame him.
Yeah, Ed Harris said that Michael Bay did too many close-ups and close-angle shots of him, and he felt like he couldn't get in character because he felt like acting general would use his hands a lot more and be more animated with his body, and he wasn't able to do that on screen, so he felt like he didn't give a good enough a performance because Michael Bay was cutting everything too close. So that drove him nuts.
Not to, get off the beaten path here, but I feel like Ed Harris is a very criminally underrated actor and a guy who very much, I would say he aspires to be an artist. Like, he is not just a blockbuster name. Like, that's a guy that loves his craft. So that makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense.
He's a very talented actor, and he gets a lot of action movie roles and then later on sports movie roles, but he always nails the screen when he's in there. He's such a great actor.
I mean, I think, I don't know if his best role is Truman Show, but like, he's done some really good shit.
Very
like,
good.
Some really good. Yeah. But I'm happy to hear that he disliked Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Because that adds a layer of good to this movie.
I don't think it was so much that he hated Michael Bay's like take on the movie, because I do think it was just one of those things where he just didn't like the way that it was being shot for his performance, is what I gather from the notes. But he's moving on, and now we have the fort, right? Kyle, if you want to take it from here, he's kind of amassed like some ex-U.S. operatives. It looks like I don't know if they say special forces.
They were Force Recon Marines, I believe, which are, like MARSOC, Marine Special Operation Command. Like, they're no joke. They're up there with Navy SEALs and like Rangers. Like, I don't know if they're quite Delta level, but like these are some very competent military professionals.
Yes, they usually back up Rangers a lot. Yeah.
They do. They're very good at what they do. And what they do is multifaceted, but they're really good at like snatch and grabs. They're really good at like any kind of like hostage situation, which is good because they'll need that kind of counter terrorist mind in a little while so that they can effectively go about fucking shit up, essentially. I don't want to give it away just yet, but these are people that were trained well and are using that training in a very bad way, which is kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
Which is something that this movie kind of was like, I don't know, Andrew, I think about like nowadays when people are like, you hear all this stuff about people in the military who are white nationalists or, I don't know, an ISIS cell. And you're like, with all that training that they get, if they just decide to flip the switch one day, then, I mean, you're kind of fucked because you're not going to be able to do a whole lot against somebody like that. So they're very professional military, ex-military people, and they are going into a research facility where they're testing out like some kind of, I don't know how they describe it. It's a chemical weapon or a biological weapon, rather, I believe.
VX gas.
Which I don't know if that's even real. The way that he was describing it was like the primary effects are like a nerve agent. So you
and
you're paralyzed essentially. You
and
can't
almost
breathe,
like
and you start like
it's a gas, but it's also like an acid at the same time. Like
yes.
the way that it interacts, it's very unrealistic, honestly. Like it would be
Yeah.
if this stuff existed, it would be the most devastating thing to exist. Probably even more devastating because the way that he describes it as the gas.
Oh,
Or
if it aerosolizes in the air, which breaks it up into little droplets or microscopic aerosol particles.
Don't we get a crash course
yes.
example as to what this shit does? Broken into this base that they've used tranquilizer darts to take out all of their enemies so conveniently, mind you. Guys are tactical and trained, but they've taken them out and they go straight for. I wouldn't even. It's not even like a safe room. It's like a locked, guarded. I mean, it is kind of a safe room where all of these weapons are stored. And they go and gather like 16 rockets of this, CX gas, VX gas, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yep.
And one of the modules breaks off from the rockets and breaks. And at this point, they freak out. They start running towards the safe door. And one guy gets locked in because they have to shut it right away. And we see his face essentially
just melting off.
Like warts grow, and then it just kind of like melts off. It was really disturbing.
It was very disturbing. It's disturbed me as a kid, and I'm glad you brought up that point. I do want to roundabout too and make mention, because this is going to come up frequently in this movie, and I think it's a good plot point. But they use non-lethal force on these guards, and they even mentioned like, how long do we have while they're unconscious? And he's like 15 to 20 minutes. He's like, we better move. And Ed Harris is commanding this team of rogue Marines, and he is like confirming that no one is killed. He doesn't want to kill another soldier or another security guard. He doesn't want to lay waste to anybody. He is a different villain. And then I think we're introduced to Nick Cage's character, right, Andrew?
Yeah, Mr. Goodspeed. They're at like FBI headquarters, I guess, or wherever his offices
Did you like the Beatles reference?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Andrew, was that good for you?
Sure. I guess it sets up this character's
is nerdy, I guess.
Eccentricness. I guess I don't think liking the Beatles is that eccentric or that nerdy, but like,
maybe it was back in the '90s, but
he was buying vinyls before vinyls were cool.
Buying vinyls in the 90s is like pre-hipster.
Yes,
like,
exactly. Before it was cool. So I would consider that kind of like a nerdy collector at that point, or that's kind of where they were going with him. But he's a big music guy, because you actually hear Elton John's Rocket Man playing in the background in one of these scenes, which we'll come back to later. But yeah, Andrew, we meet him. What does he do, and what happens when we meet him?
I believe they get this package from like Bosnia. Am I correct? Is that the correct country?
Somewhere like
Bosnia.
that.
Wasn't this around the time that there was the ethnic cleansing going on?
It was.
There was a lot of U.S. involved. We were in Bosnia a lot with a lot of Green Berets and a lot of Navy SEALs were doing some black ops in Bosnia.
There was a lot of stuff that was going missing around that time.
Yeah.
The Balkans are known for ethnic cleansing and civil war and unrest. So they receive this package and they think that there might be some sort of bomb or weapon. It's more like a crate. It's a giant crate, and it's got the Bosnian flag, I believe, painted on the front. And Goodspeed.
Technically, you're right, though.
Character.
Technically, you're right.
It is, yeah. Him and his coworker, forget his name, Pencil Pusher. They go into this. What would you call that?
Chamber.
Room. Chamber. Yeah, it's like a chamber that is separated from the office itself. So in case anything is spilled or exposed, the people on the outside.
Kind of like something you would see in the CDC. Yeah, like a CDC, like preserved chamber.
Precisely. Yeah, and Goodspeed goes and opens the crate, and there's a baby in there, like an infant, like toy baby, not a live baby. It's
that would have made a different movie.
child. Yes, it would have. It would have been extremely dark. They're like, oh, this is cute. And Paige is like, oh, wait, there's a bomb. Holy shit. And then his coworker grabs the baby and starts messing with its arm. And then it just starts spraying this gas out of nowhere. And they're like, full meltdown. The people on the outside are freaking out.
Can I add to this?
Please say something.
Yeah, I was going to say that coworker was a complete moron. Like an absolute moron. He deserved to be fired. He was just messing and joking around with a crate that they think is got hazardous material in it. And he just fucks with this baby and like releases all this damn gas. Like, I wanted him fired. I actually wanted him to die in this scene, but continue, Andrew. Sorry.
You want him executed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure he would have been executed from the FBI if he did something like that. Let's be honest.
He was close to dying because it was a timed bomb. It had like a 2-minute countdown. And meanwhile, they're in these hazmat suits, so they're not getting direct contact from this gas. But the gas, I'm assuming it's the same type of gas that Hummel had stolen previously, starts melting their hazmat suits. Meanwhile, the people on the outside can't give them any direction about how to defuse this bomb. The only thing they say is, take that needle with the serum and inject it into your fucking heart. And they're like, what? Why do we want to do that? That seems dangerous. It seems maybe more dangerous than, us just being in here. But long story short, I guess the gas eventually diffuses out, and Goodspeed, Cage's character, diffuses the bomb, and they're safe.
I think they said something where they were like, when he was like, jab that into your heart, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you adrenaline, basically. So if the stuff eats through your skin, you can go in shock, and we need you alive so you can defuse the bomb. But I was like, that doesn't really make much sense, because you're still breathing in so much of that gas. It's going to corrode through your skin. It doesn't matter if you have adrenaline in your heart or not. I don't know. Kyle, can you speak to any of that?
I don't know if it's like because your heart is beating, like you're getting it into like the actual heart immediately, so that the effects are quicker. But like all I know with that is, like you said, like with adrenaline, like that's the only thing I know that's like stabbing your heart. And I don't know dog shit about like anything to do with nerve agents, like what an antidote might be or an inoculant might be, or like what that would even look like. But I think it's because like I don't not believe it, that I'm like, okay, that's okay. But at the same time, I'm also like, yeah, but I have to have an EpiPen around me all the time because I'm allergic to NSAIDs. But like that's like in your thigh. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like I know some things go in your heart, some things don't. So like it doesn't bother me, but I can see where that would be bullshit.
It's believable if you don't think about it too much, is how I kind of termed that up. But anyway, he ends up saving the FBI and gets the day off. So we're introduced to our next character. So he's sitting at home now, playing the guitar in his underwear. And his girlfriend comes in and reveals to him that she's pregnant. And she's trying to convince him to marry her, and you can tell he's the one that's not committed to anything in his life except biochemical weapons. And the way that Nick Cage plays his character, so a lot of Nick Cage's isms are improv here. The script was supposed to be more serious than it was, and Nick Cage started playing it a little bit more comedic, and Michael Bay just let it go. So
of course he did. Of course he did. It's classic Nick Cage. Honestly, watching this, my mind immediately went to like National Treasure or just the casting of National Treasure. I was like, man, this character Goodspeed is like one step away from what's his name in National Treasure. Like he was very close. Very close. I would say the guy in National Treasure was a little bit more realistic, but this Goodspeed was like just a shade and a half.
Yeah, and he doesn't curse, if you notice that. He says frickin' a lot, and he kind of does his Nick Cage over the top acting several times in this movie. But the Goodspeed character is a nerdy office, like Andrew said, kind of reasonably. He's a very intelligent pencil pusher. He knows bombs and he knows chemical weapons really well. He's a biochemist.
I love the line that his girlfriend gave him. She was like, I'm a Catholic woman and I can't be unmarried with a child. I don't know what I'm going to do. Remember that one?
LOL.
Yeah. That was so on the nose.
She's
Very on the nose.
So she's
definitely a fear.
She definitely wants to get married for those reasons. And then now we cut to, and we're going to speed through a little bit more of this. We cut now to Ed Harris's character. Was it General Hummel? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He calls the FBI, whatever. I don't know who he's actually calling, but he's calling high brass of the U.S. government. And what he's done in the meantime is taken Alcatraz. So he's gone in on a tour and locked a lot of tourists inside the cells, which they never did that during a tour. They never actually locked you in a cell for fun for about a minute or two. They never did that. But they should, but they do it during the tour here, and they just don't let them out. So again, non-lethal. And another point I want to make is when Ed Harris and them are taking Alcatraz, he finds a group of children on a tour, and he tells the little girl, he's like, hey, go tell your counselor or your school director that you need to get back on the bus. It's unsafe. So again,
yeah,
we're seeing that he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and we're going to find out the reason he's doing all this in just a second. But he sends the girls off. One, they're not getting on a school bus because they're on an island, so they have to get back on the ferry. But anyway, he goes over and calls the high command, and they know him. He's a very decorated, star-studded general. Won the Medal of Honor at some point during Vietnam. He's been on a lot of covert ops.
He won like 2 Medal of Honors, like 3 Silver Stars, like all sorts of things. Dude was decorated beyond measure.
And they're talking to him, and basically in this conversation with the FBI, he wants, I can't remember how much money, Andrew, you'll know. He wants a bunch of money routed into a specific bank account so that he can pay off the families who have lost special ops operators who have died overseas and who are told nothing and given nothing. He finds that an atrocity for men that gave their life for their country. It is a very, very valid reason to be doing what he's doing, and he's very
absolutely
sympathetic, because you're like, hell yeah, take Alcatraz and get that money. And he reminds him, he's like, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I will for the good of this cause. And that's all he wants. And I'm like, hell yeah, give him the money. Why not give him the money? I don't know. You're like,
it was $1 million per head, per person or per family, I believe.
Hell yeah.
That's what he demanded. I think there were, 27
something like that. And then he was going to
$27 million.
And he was going to shave off some money because he goes over and talks to all of his team leaders. He's like, we've now become treasonous terrorists. You can't come back to the U.S. You'll have to be on the run for the rest of your life. I will give you some money for this cause. Are you okay with that? So he's like, you're in my orders and I will lead you to victory, kind of thing. He's a well-spoken, very honorable man. Like, you don't see antagonists like that. You don't see an antagonist that you can root for very often. Like we said,
no.
With last week's episode in Air Force One, Kyle and Andrew, you guys were on the same side that, like, too many crazy ass villains these days. Everyone that's an antagonist or a villain has to be out of their mind insane. And it's good to just watch back-to-back movies with 2 different villains played differently, that you understand their sides of things, or that they don't have to just be off the wall and just maniac. They're both intelligent, well-spoken, and well thought out. That's the mention I want to make. I think Ed Harris's character is very well written in this movie.
I want to say something. I agree with you in the sense that it's well written, but I don't know. Part of me, and I thought this from the beginning, not to give away final thoughts or anything, but part of me was bothered that this guy who is so well thought of, clearly intelligent, clearly has great connections, again, a decorated general beyond measure, beyond 99% of people who serve in the military. It was just alarming or astounding to me that he stooped to this level of violence or threatening of violence immediately. Personally, I feel like he could have had some talks with some people or done something political or diplomatic as opposed to resorting to this. But
I agree with you.
We wouldn't have any action or anything. We wouldn't have any action or anything. So
right.
I just wanted to put that out.
I do agree with you, because I thought that myself. They do mention that, though, that he's had meetings and they've all been denied. But they just mention it in dialogue. But I agree with you that you could have added.
It was a one-off.
It would have been nice to to Andrew's point, it would have been nice to see a vignette of him, like, even if it was like a 30-second vignette of like him and a senator, and the senator's like, it's not going to happen. We're never going to get the funds to do this. Like, it would be
a 3-hour Michael Bay director's cut.
Instead, I mean,
like,
you could have killed the scene with him and his wife. Like, I know you're trying to set up his moral heart, but you did that in other ways. We don't need more of that. You could have killed that scene and had him talking with the Pentagon or somebody and getting denied, and that being his last denial, that he can take. You could have easily done that, and it would have fixed, like, Andrew, I agree with you 100%, and that would have fixed the whole thing instead of just one-off dialogue.
You got to create some sort of plot device to create the ultimate sense of tension, though. So I get it. It's just part of the movie.
It's Michael Bay. It's a Michael Bay 90s action movie. So moving on, he's got the VX gas that we talked about earlier. He's got the missiles on Alcatraz. He's talking about launching them from Alcatraz, basically just absolutely killing everyone in San Francisco. I think Goodspeed at one point says, like, if a teaspoon of it drops on the ground, it could go up to 100 square miles or something like that. It's something absurd. I can't remember. I remember being like, that's not realistic. But anyway, they call Goodspeed while he's having sex with his girlfriend. They're having sex on this terrace in San Francisco, and it's kind of funny because he's like, he has to answer the phone because it's the FBI calling. And he's just like, this can't be happening. And he starts like talking in rhythm. It's very strange.
It's so Nicolas Cage. This guy's a fucking loser who's intelligent and probably makes good money, but he has
really
a smoking hot girlfriend who's pregnant, and he's a nerd, but he's also fucking on a terrace in like public.
Yeah, it's very strange. And
it's so dumb. It's so forced, but
he gets the call from the FBI, and they tell him about a training exercise he has to go to. And he tells his girlfriend he's got to leave and agrees to marry her and says, why don't you come to San Francisco? We'll get married after I finish the training exercise. She agrees. They're excited. And then it cuts to what, Kyle? I think it cuts to him in the training facility, right?
I believe so. We start figuring out more stuff about what's going on, and he realizes that's not a training exercise. But this is where we meet our other main character, correct?
Yes, this is about the same time. The scenes kind of overlap too, where there's during this time where they're talking about how are we going to do this. We can't just go to Alcatraz. Even Ed Harris knows their countermeasures, and he says it will not work. I know what it is. The countermeasure was to launch napalm that would burn the chemicals out of the air, and it's proven that doesn't work. Something like that. They're throwing a lot at you, but to sum it up, 2 FBI agents meet in the corner, and they talk about a man named John Mason, and they're like, he's our only hope. And it turns out they're talking about a highly qualified British SAS agent that has escaped from Alcatraz, that the U.S. government has been holding captive against his will for a very long time and has burned every trace of him so no one knows he exists. And they explain a little bit more later why they did this, but at the time I was like, that's not... What? How? How is that even possible? And Kyle, I'll let you lead the way here as we meet our next main character, which I have to admit, we're about to introduce Sean Connery, and I'll let Kyle do that, but Sean Connery was a big Michael Bay fan as much as Ed Harris wasn't. Sean Connery went to Disney executives with Michael Bay and talked them into letting him direct this film, and then Sean Connery joined the producing staff of this film. So he was a big fan of Michael Bay and even taught Michael Bay how to direct on set. So there you go.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Kyle,
that's pretty nuts. I didn't know that.
Talk about John Mason. Talk about the introduction we get of him, too, because we get Goodspeed is in the hands of the FBI, understands it's not a training exercise, and then what do we get next?
So we understand now that we're reaching out to other people to help infiltrate Alcatraz and rescue the hostages. So let's just put that out there because that's part of the whole part of the scene. In order to do that, I'm going to talk to this highly trained ex-SAS convict who's been locked away for forever, no chance of parole. And this is honestly where the whole, The Rock is another James Bond movie And just looking at it from how I interpret that as a James Bond fan, I watched this and I was like, yeah, no, it's not at all. But it's cute to think about that a little bit. But like, it's definitely not the same kind of tenor, the same kind of like universe even. There's like, you know what I mean? But I can see where it's a fun game to play, like a what if. Cool. So sorry if I just pissed off a bunch of people, but it just ain't, y'all.
No, it does not work that way. Like, I was like, even like,
It
okay,
doesn't.
like my bullshit meters are going off really hard for this.
Yes, but I like the idea of it. But it just doesn't really, it'll take you out of it if you think about that. But this is where Sean Connery, Mr. Mason, is negotiating with one of the directors of the FBI, who's clearly a prick. This guy's an asshole. And he's very much not wanting Mason to like, he doesn't like Mason. He's the one who like locked him up, but apparently who locked him up and it was like false imprisonment or some shit. Something not great. But this is the moment where Sean Connery essentially is one of our main characters. That's just how it kind of shakes out.
Yeah, he is the only way that they're going to sneak into Alcatraz. He escaped it apparently, but he's very witty. Does he remind you of any character, Kyle or Andrew? Does he remind you of anybody?
I mean, I don't want to say he reminds me of Indy's father, but like, it's not the same character by any stretch. But I don't know. It's hard for me to see past him because he looks very similar, and obviously he sounds the same, and he's a brash leading man in a sense. But I don't know. There's no one else that
I was going to say
comes to mind.
There's a big conspiracy out there. I mean, think about it. He's brash, he's witty, he's kind of charming, and he's a highly trained British operative. What comes to mind? And it's Sean Connery.
James Bond.
There is actually a fan theory that this movie, he's just an older Bond that has gotten confiscated by the U.S. government and disavowed by the British intelligence, and he's in this movie. That's a lot of people have brought that up. It is a very popular fan theory. How do you feel about that, Kyle?
No, it doesn't work out that way. I wish that it did, because that'd be sick. Like, I want to put that out there. Like, I am actively like, yeah, I'd love that. That'd be fucking sick. But the direction of this movie, even though he is a main character, he's kind of a secondary main character to Nicolas Cage. He doesn't do any of the cool James Bond stuff. He just kind of like knows what to do.
He also has some of the witty dialogue that Bond would have, but I don't think that's anything more than that's just it's Sean Connery plays both roles, and we're trying too hard to put a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. I can see. I mean, Bond influenced a lot of action films. Everybody, if you're suave and you're witty, you're going to get some sort of Bond characteristic. That's just what came first. But we don't have to put Bond on everything. This is not a Bond character. Probably influenced by Bond, but
yeah.
But anyway, he's being interrogated. They want to know how he got into Alcatraz. They don't want him to help more than just tell them how he did it. And he keeps bluffing them off and saying, I don't know. Well, eventually they offer him a pardon to help them. And they bring in this is another my bullshit meters coming off. You have a pencil pusher as Goodspeed, right? Andrew, you said it perfectly earlier. And all he knows is biochemical weapons. He's not a field agent, but they have him go in and interrogate Mason to try to get him to take the deal. And it's kind of funny because it's a stupid scene. It doesn't make any sense. But the way that Nicolas Cage plays it off is so funny because he's trying to be so tough. And they do a good job of showing that Sean Connery's character, Mason, is well-informed and can see right through everything. So he understands immediately he's not a field agent, and he somehow gets a quarter, too. Let's go ahead and put that there because one of the agents like flipped him a quarter and said, call someone who cares or something. I don't know. But all this turns out that he says he's going to help him, but he wants a hotel suite. He wants a haircut. They make a stupid-ass Nirvana reference in 96. Kurt Cobain had been dead.
I was going to say, when did he commit suicide, Andrew?
94.
Well, or he was killed by Courtney Love.
Yeah, killed by Courtney Love in '94.
When was he executed by Courtney Love?
He was executed by Courtney Love in
94.
'94. April of '94. So this is 2 years after Kurt Cobain has died. And yeah, grunge was...
But the grunge scene in Seattle
was this a tasteful joke or a classless joke?
No, they were just trying
to...
They're trying to be they're trying to make a pop culture reference that just kind of aged poorly.
Because the grunge scene was still huge in Seattle at that point.
Yeah, you still had Pearl Jam.
You had Soundgarden, you had Pearl Jam. Like, that was grunge music in Seattle. I mean, that's still a thing to this day. Like that... Nothing in poor taste there.
Yeah,
it was just like a nice pop culture reference for that time period.
He did reference Kurt Cobain specifically. He said, "If you're a grunge lead singer from Seattle," and mentioning his long hair.
Sure, you could have been talking about Chris Cornell, also R.I.P.
True.
But
yeah, R.I.P. too. So it's tasteful or tasteless. It's tasteless.
Sing a great James Bond song. I believe it was
Casino Royale.
I believe that.
It was Casino Royale.
That was actually a really good fucking song.
It was a great song.
Bond song.
Great song.
But anyways.
Yeah, so moving on, Mason's able to, like, he shows that he's an escape artist. He's escaped, like, 6 maximum security prisons, including Alcatraz. That's why they're getting him in. So he ends up cutting a hole through the glass and finds out it's Womack. He says, "Womack, you piece of shit. I should have known." And so he confronts Womack. They give him to his demands, so we're in San Francisco now, and they have him in this presidential suite. He's taking a shower, and for some reason they leave him alone, and he's able to order room service. This is a big plot point. So room service comes in and distracts all the FBI agents who go out and, like, go to the room service. So he's left on the balcony with a stylist, and he's cut Sean Connery's hair, and he's gotten a rope from the shower, right, Andrew? Like some sort of, like, tether that holds a loofah or something. I don't know. Or
I believe it's the clothesline.
Clothesline, yes.
Hotels from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. You pull out and attach the other side of the wall and hang your wet clothes. He pulls that out clean. There's plenty of feet, probably more feet in that clothesline that I've ever seen in any hotel clothesline. But I digress.
Yeah, and so he gets that. He has that under his hand. And so what he ends up doing is putting Womack's hands around the rope really fast and slinging him over the balcony of this high-ass hotel room. And he's trying to get his bit of revenge. And Goodspeed pulls his gun. And it's so funny because they show that Goodspeed has no tactical training whatsoever. Because he's like, "Please, sir, put him down." And he's like, he's getting very heavy.
Moron.
He's a moron. And so eventually he ties him around a chair, so Goodspeed has to throw his gun down to save Womack from falling. And then Sean Connery leaves the building and confiscates a Hummer. So add Grand Theft Auto to his list. He gets in a Hummer, and Goodspeed chases after him. And what does he grab, Kyle? He grabs some sort of Corvette, sports car, or something like that?
Ferrari, I believe.
It's a Ferrari, and I believe it's the precursor to the Medina, which I don't remember. These are like almost 40-year-old cars. Like these are pretty old cars, but it's a very fast V8 Ferrari.
And steals it from some German tourists.
Yeah. And
some Eastern European tourists.
This is a pretty long scene, so we'll just say this. They fuck up the city of San Francisco in this car chase.
Hey, question. I doubt you all made note of it, but the chase music in this chase scene, this car chase scene, it was so reminiscent of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, you know why?
Yeah, also, I was going to say that too, Andrew. I'm glad that you brought that up.
I thought we were about to get into the
Exactly. It's because of the score.
What?
The score is it's the same person who wrote the score to the
it's Hans Zimmer
to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Hans Zimmer did.
There we go.
Hans Zimmer did the score to this movie. Yeah, that was a good catch.
Good.
I'm glad you picked it up because I was gonna bring that in later. So I'm glad you picked it up here. But it is Hans Zimmer that did the score for this, and we all know Hans Zimmer.
Okay, makes sense.
Which I think this was the beginning of Michael Bay and Hans Zimmer's like relationship, because didn't Hans Zimmer do like all of Michael Bay's scores? I mean, sometimes it's like the best part of a Michael Bay film is Hans Zimmer, but they fuck up the entire city of San Francisco. Explosions, running over different cars, almost killing people. The Hummer gets flight at one point and goes like 40 feet in the air and just absolutely destroys the front end and chassis. It would not be drivable after that.
No, he doesn't. Sorry, it's a F-355 Spider, if
Okay.
I remember it correctly.
Hell yeah, brother.
So during all this, Sean Connery calls a collect call to try to find Miss Angelou, whatever. He's trying to find this person. That's why he escaped. And during this whole chase scene, which, by the way, is all practical, and they filmed it in the streets of San Francisco. That's why, Andrew, when you said it had a $75 million budget earlier, I was absolutely floored, because not only did they film on a National Historic Landmark, they filmed in the streets of San Francisco with this car chase scene. How? With a $75 million budget. That is crazy.
No idea.
But they
did you all notice there was one small continuity error that I noticed? Pointed out when he finally wrecked that Ferrari, he goes through a whole bunch of parking meters and like it tears the fuck out of the front of the car and breaks the windshield. There was a small moment when he parked the car and got out. The front windshield wasn't cracked or broken at all. I was like, how do you miss that? How do you miss that shit?
There was a million of those things. Like, because like I said, when the Hummer got air and hit the front end on the concrete, you can actually see the tire pop out and the front end bow, and then they cut to it and it's totally fine. So you saw a lot of that in this car chase scene, but it's Michael Bay. He doesn't care. He's just throwing action your way. But all this ends at I forgot the name of that garden, Andrew, if you know, in San Francisco. But
it's the one where it's the
with the pillars.
Johnny's Garden, yeah. Johnny's Garden.
Shut up, Andrew.
So they end up at the garden, and Sean Connery meets his daughter. That's who we find out it is. And all he wanted to do was just kind of interact with her and say, "You're the only reason that anyone knows I exist right now." And Nicolas Cage gets there and hears this whole conversation and ends up doing him a solid. And comes up to him and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, I need to take your father. He's helping the FBI with this situation." Because their daughter is immediately like, "Oh, you're on the run again. What a piece of shit." And Nicolas Cage kind of saves him. And that's the union right there. So cut towards, what happens next, Andrew?
Shit, that's a good question. I think at this point, Page alerts the other FBI operatives like, "Hey, I've got him. We found him. He's here at this garden." And they come storming in. There's 15 cars that drive into this garden, and they take him into custody. And they're like, "Yeah, you've done enough damage here, Mason. Time to come with us." And the daughter's like, "Oh, you're leaving me again? Oh, this is so typical of you. Yada yada yada." And it's whatever. He goes back with the FBI because there's nowhere else for him to go. He pretty much destroyed half of San Francisco, so he's got to atone for his sins by doing what the FBI wants of him. And I guess they go back to their San Francisco headquarters. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think at this point too, they're kind of doing a brief of the mission itself, and Nicolas Cage says something like, "I'll show all the men how to deactivate the bombs," and they're like, "That's not going to be necessary because you're coming with us," which was dumb, because they would never take, he would be dead instantly. We've just seen how he interacts in the field. He doesn't even know how to use a gun. So this kind of is earth shattering to him because he's pretty much like, "I'm going to die." And he finds out that the nerve gas is on Alcatraz and they're going to fire it into San Francisco. So he's trying to get in touch with his fiance and let her know not to come to San Francisco because she could end up dying. And she refuses. She's like, no, you don't get to tell me what to do. So she comes anyway. And now Mason has met another team of SEALs that are going to infiltrate the island through Mason's knowledge of how to get in, and they're going to use good speed to deactivate the bombs. That's their plan. So fast forward, they're all in their gear, they're ready to go, and this plane drops them off so that they use some of their underwater submersible. Kyle, do you want to take it from there? What happens once they kind of get on their mission to enter Alcatraz?
So they get into a special made submersible. Nicolas Cage is freaking out. It comes to light that Sean Connery knows that Nick Cage is not, in fact, a counter-terrorist operative. He's just a chemical guy, and he's ribbing him for that. And then also, we are getting close to like where shit starts kicking off, if it hasn't already, because the SEALs and our two characters get in there, and within like, I don't know, 5 minutes of them getting there, they get ambushed.
Well, before that even happens, they find out how Sean Connery, and this is just a small scene, but I want to make mention of it because they think Sean Connery knows the layout really well, and he's just going off memory. And they go through this part. Alcatraz is like, I'll lead you through here. I think this is where it is. And they're like, what? You think? And they go through this boiler room that's still active. Like the fires of the boiler and all the machinery are moving. He's like, I still think I got the timing right. And he starts rolling as all this fire is shooting out. And which doesn't make any sense because Alcatraz is abandoned. They wouldn't have active boilers.
I was about to say, does it make logical sense that the boiler room is that active in churning?
No, it does not, because this is abandoned. If you go to Alcatraz, too, it's like half of it's fallen down. And they asked Michael Bay about that on set, and he said, fuck it, it's entertaining. And which reminds me of, do you remember our Armageddon quote where... where Ben Affleck, he was asking why is it easier to train diggers to be astronauts instead of astronauts to be diggers, and he's like looked at him and said, "Shut the fuck up."
LOL.
So give it to Michael Bay.
What a fucking idiot.
he doesn't care, man. He's making millions off these movies. But...
And he should care. He should care, but he's also a piece of shit.
But anyway,
in case you're wondering. The name of the street that they end the chase on is called Lombard Street.
Nice. So
thank you, Kyle.
They end up, to Kyle's point, they end up after this, they're kind of realizing that they're up shit's creek with this, and they don't know that Hummel's men have prepared for a counterattack entry like this. So they get up into the famous showers and they trip a mine, right, Kyle? Or like they trip a sensor. And so now
they got some kind of sensor that's set up there. The Marines do, the Rogue Marines, and they triple wire some shit. Who knows?
Yeah, the Marines, the forces had put just sensors that would just go off and notify them if anybody trips those sensors, and they put it over the drains in the shower, and that's where they come up. They come up the drains, but they're coming up like one at a time, and they get up there and they're surrounded. Everyone's kind of on the balcony.
Yeah. First thing they should have done was just send one fucking person up and hold it for a little bit. And that's that. But instead, they choose to bring their entire squad up there of like, I don't know, 7 guys. And immediately, like they trip the sensor, they don't know it. They're all up there. And then the general and his men find them and they're like, "Need to surrender, y'all." They're like, "Yeah, we're not doing that." And they're like, "We don't want to have to do this now. Surrender." He's like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to surrender." And somebody knocked some fucking. What?
Does anyone surrender? Does anyone surrender?
So they ask. They're like, "Hey," no, they're like, no, yeah. So they're like, the guys are like, Marines are like, surrender, and then the SEALs are like, "Yeah, we're not going to surrender." And they kind of go off that, even more. They kind of like talk about like surrendering, but they don't actually surrender.
This is another point, a build to the Hummel character, because he's like, I don't want to have to do this. We don't need to do this. We don't need to shed American blood. And then I think something gets knocked over and someone thinks it's gunfire because everyone's got an itchy trigger finger, and then they just start blowing the place apart, basically. But
correct.
But all the SEALs end up just murdered.
They're all killed.
And Hummel is upset. He's very upset. He did not want this to happen. He's yelling, "Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire." But the main squad captain, too, is just absolutely obliterated. And he's like falling and crawling. And he grabs like a pistol. And I will tell you one thing about a Michael Bay movie. The ADR of the guns is horrible, because every pistol sounds like a cannon in this movie, including a 9mm. And I can't remember what this dude grabbed, but he's firing it into the balcony, and the pistol sounds overtake the sounds of the M16, M4s that they were using, the assault rifles, and I did not like the sound design there. So that's a flaw to it. But Andrew, all the SEALs are dead, but there are 2 people that survive. Can you tell me who those are?
Yeah. It's Goodspeed and Mason, and they're down in the barracks, down in the boiler
the tunnels.
room still.
Yeah, the tunnels. They kind of stayed in the tunnel.
Yeah, they didn't go up because they're not idiots. And they knew that if they went up, they'd be fucking dead, because it was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 against, 20 men, 15 men, something like that.
Yeah, they had overpowered, and they had the high ground.
Yeah, they had the high ground. And I believe at this point, all those like motion sensors get triggered, and it's the actor who plays Tuco in Breaking Bad. I recognized him right away. He was also, there was another one. I don't know if y'all caught this, but the actor who plays Linnell in Borat, she was one of the citizens that was locked in the prison. I recognized her right away.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this cast. But anyways, Mason and Goodspeed set off the motion triggers that Tuco's character alerts to Hummel, and they're like, oh, there's still men down there. Well, let's go get them.
Well,
they run
I want to say, too, it's not even the motion sensors. It's they went to retrieve the bodies of the SEALs and found one of them's like TACCOM was missing and his gun.
That's right.
And this is one of my favorite lines. I don't know why. It makes sense, but it's just so funny because Sean Connery's like, well, screw that. I'm not doing that. And he starts walking away through the tunnels, and he has a gun, and he points it at Goodspeed, said, don't stop me, and keeps going. And Goodspeed has the TACCOM, and he's just like, yeah, Mason's walking away, sir. He has a gun. And they were like, what, do you have, a fucking water pistol? And he looks down and sees he has a gun, and he's like, oh. I love that line in this movie. And so Goodspeed ends up running after him. And I forget, how does he convince him, Andrew, to continue the mission? I keep forgetting.
I honestly have no fucking idea.
Kyle, do you know?
I don't know. Kyle, do you remember?
I feel like he... like following him.
Was it one of those admissions where he was like telling him about the
no,
VX
you're
gas?
right. He was like, I'm a chemical guy. This is going to release, if they go through it, this is going to release a whole bunch of chemicals on the whole
That's right.
city.
Yeah.
It's going to kill the whole city. Your daughter is going to be one of them. And he's like, you fucking asshole. He's like, and then he says, what's the director's name that he hates? He's like, fucking ass.
What, we mentioned his name a million times over.
Whatever his name is, fucking hates him even more now because of this, the lying. So now he's like, well, fuck, now I have to. Now they're a duo. Good cop, bad cop.
And so they're in the tunnels now, and he's like, we just got to get to the rockets, and I can disable the guidance chip in him, and so that they'll fall into the water and not even reach San Francisco. And he's like, okay, cool. And so they're trying to make up a plan, and they go a different route. And while they're doing that, Hummel's men's like, we need to flush them out of the tunnel. So they set fire to the tunnels and explode. But
Which doesn't seem like a great idea to try to blow up a 100-year-old infrastructure.
Especially when you're in it and you have these chemicals that we talked about that are so unstable. Because we're getting to a scene here, too, where, and Andrew, if you remember this scene, they end up getting into another section of the tunnel and surprise a guy that's next to one of the rockets. And what happens there?
Believe they kill him by shooting down some sort of like hanging furnace or something like that. But isn't this where they start collecting the microchips from each of the
there's one
rocket shoots?
There's one rocket in the room, and they get into this gunfight with 2 of the soldiers. And I think at one point they shoot his foot and just blow his foot apart, and it's very graphic. Like, this movie has not been that gory, but Michael Bay decided to take a 20-second zoom on this dude's feet as you watch it just get blown apart by this MP5 that Mason has.
Awesome.
And they're in this huge gunfight with these 2 soldiers, and they're just unloading all this weaponry towards the very, very, very fragile rocket over there with the VX gas. And Goodspeed keeps telling Mason, he's like, let's not shoot towards the rocket. And he just ignores him and keeps shooting towards the rocket. But even the morons on the other side are just shooting. Like, he's using the rocket as cover. And they're just firing away. And I'm like, there's no way, if this stuff is that fragile, that someone didn't hit that rocket and knock over one of these gas balls. And to Andrew's point, they shoot I guess it's a rock crevice or something down, and it crushes one of the guys.
It looked like a furnace. Honestly, it looked like an old furnace that, honestly, it kind of looks like an air conditioning unit, but I don't think Alcatraz has that. So Mason shot it down, and it fucking crushed him, and he died on impact.
Yeah.
Even though his foot was still twitching, and Goodspeed was like, is that normal? Oh. But
it's so crazy too, because this whole like scene just reminds me of Modern Warfare 2. If anybody played that as a kid, and with
for sure,
because the shower scene in Modern Warfare 2, they did model after The Rock, so this movie did have some influence later on. But we have a scene where Goodspeed is disabling the chip on the rocket, and he's talking to Mason, and this is where Mason gets a little weary because he pulls out this. It looks like a string of pearls. And he mentions that it's a very wild chemical reaction. It doesn't take much to set it off. And he's like, one of these little balls falls and everything in the room dies. So keep track of that. But he's briefing Mason on how deadly this shit is and how bad it is. And he's like handling everything with care. And he removes the rocket chip out of the first rocket. And then we cut to a scene where they're telling Hummel, is like, hey, 2 guys haven't reported back. And so now Hummel scatters more soldiers to go find them. And then what happens next, Kyle?
So they go on this big search to find them, and they are trying to systematically hunt them down. I'm trying to think. These parts all bleed together because they all happen really. Like this is the kind of tail end of the bridge now. It's very, very quick. But a bunch of things are happening. They're hunting down these 2 remaining survivors. Sometime in here, we also get a threat to the hostages too, and Sean Connery gets captured, and he's just fucking with them, honestly.
And he gets captured on purpose. He just kind of walks over to him, as Nicolas Cage kind of scurries around to undo some of the rockets.
Yeah, he's essentially stalling to buy more time, which does work. But Sean Connery is kind of like, I don't think they're gonna fucking do it. I don't think they're gonna fucking try to kill anybody.
Because they have 4 rockets, right? And he's disabled. And during this scene, Nicolas Cage disables 2 of them, so they're down to 2 rockets left, if I'm not mistaken by my math.
I thought there were like 17 or 15 in total, and then like in this montage, they got like 13 of them, and then there were 2 remaining. Maybe I'm full of shit.
No, I mean, that could be right. I mean, I'm hoping it's only 4 because that would make more sense if it's 50.
It's semantics. Regardless, he's got the majority of them,
well,
and we can move forward.
We only see him dismantle 2, and then they keep making mention that there's 2 left. That's at this point, you're probably right. It's probably like 15, but they have 2 left. 2 left to dismantle. But what happens now, Andrew?
They kidnap them. They finally corner them, and they kind of bring them into like a central room, if you will. And at this point, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm fuzzy here, but isn't this where? No, this isn't where the cracks start to show. I don't remember. This is where I did watch this while I was sick,
dying.
So I apologize. Yeah.
So what happens in this whole montage? So what happens in this whole montage? And before that, Nicolas Cage actually shoots and kills somebody to save Sean Connery before they get into this hostage situation. But they basically take him and throw him into a jail cell into the rest of Alcatraz.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And
yes, okay.
And now it's boiling down to go time. Like, the FBI is trying to call their bluff, and they're like, we need to launch a rocket, sir, to send a message. And he's like, you could tell he's very hesitant because, again, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. So during this whole time frame while they're locked up, Sean Connery ends up he pulls like the bed sheet and ends up making a contraption to unlock them from the cell, to get them out of their cell, proving that he knew how to escape Alcatraz. While that's going on...
And I want to say this is where we have the infamous line from Goodspeed. I don't know if you wrote it down, but I wrote it down because it needs to be mentioned.
Take it away.
This is Mason. Mason, he rips off like the side of like the cot that's in there, and it creates this like long rope that he ties to the end of like some like weighted device. He sticks his hand outside the jail cell with this device and kind of swings it around and tosses it on some levers that are down like 10, 15 feet to the right, and pulls and opens the door, and he walks out. But before that, Goodspeed says in the most dramatic fashion, this is the writing here, "How in the name of Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?" Zeus's butthole. Zeus's
like,
butthole.
how does that relate to anything? It doesn't. It's such a fucking dumb line.
It's such a shock value.
Well,
It's straight shock value.
They just keep using Greek terminology throughout this. Because when Sean Connery was captured, him and Hummel make mention of Greek philosophers and stuff to prove that they're intelligent. It's really dumb writing right here. And I'm sure the Zeus's butthole thing was Nicolas Cage improvising.
I'm sure, but he should be punished for that.
He should. But they escape, and while they're escaping, they launch one of the rockets towards San Francisco. And it gets this really intense, long scene where the FBI is tracking the rocket, and it's heading towards San Francisco. And then at the last second, Hummel hits a button and tracks the rocket down into the water, so it doesn't actually strike anything. And so now
he pussied out.
Yeah, now they're down to one rocket left. That's all they've got left. Goodspeed and Mason have escaped, so now that they can go after the final rocket. And I want to make mention that now there's dissent in the group because they want their money. They're like, we became treasonous bastards. We need money. So they start turning on Hummel. And Hummel's like, Hummel's like, we were going to bluff them. The mission was to never kill innocent civilians or innocent people. And there's already too much blood on my hand. So they get into this huge shootout and kill Hummel. And there's like 2 or 3 guys that are now taking charge here, and they're going to try to fire the final rocket. And then, Kyle, if you know what happens next, take it away.
This is a really fun part where Nicolas Cage actually has a pretty redeeming fight with the so-called the final boss, which is one of the rogue elements of this military crew. And he is duking it out. Sean Connery is like assisting and getting some other people who are like shooting at him. He stows away the VX gas canisters while he's being shot at, and like a storm grate or whatever, and he keeps one. And because this guy's trying to kill him and get the chip, he throws him the chip, knowing full well that like he doesn't need, if he kills this guy, he doesn't need to worry about the chip at all. So he's going into this interaction knowing he's going to be killing somebody, or that's the intent, which is already fucking
keep in mind, he gets in a hand-to-hand combat fight, and he puts this delicate gas in his shirt pocket.
Which, in my mind, like, this thing's exploded 3 times over, but we're suspending this disbelief heavily right now.
You really have to heavily suspend it on this one, because they've made this gas up to be like something you do not want in the atmosphere or in the air at all.
Yeah, anywhere near you. And it gets to the point where he gets the one over on this guy, shoves the gas canister in the mouth. And he said, what did he say, Andrew? He said something about like, hold this for me or something. And then like uppercuts him. And then it just bursts right in his mouth.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And it just starts melting.
What happens directly after that? We talked about the similar scenario towards the beginning when they were in that gas chamber, that enclosed gas chamber. They had the little, I guess it's an antidote, if you will, to inject into their heart.
Yes, it's not even an antidote. They say it's not even an antidote. They say it's just like to help your heart or something. That stuff is in the air. They've talked about it being in the air and killing everything within 100 feet or whatever in this room, and he not only puts it in the dude's mouth, but he breathes it in because the dude's in his face. Holy shit!
Yeah,
Bullshit! Bullshit!
He stabs his heart. With
He stabs
that
his stomach. He
syringe,
doesn't
like,
even stab his heart. He stabs in his stomach. So it's not even. So this whole scene is stupid.
It was more of his diaphragm area. More of his diaphragm.
It was, yeah. It wasn't close to his heart.
Yeah, and
But
also
he did it.
we also have to make mention of one of the guys. We almost bypassed this. So one of the guys that Goodspeed dispatches before this final boss is Tony Todd. We almost didn't mention Tony Todd in this. Because at one point he sends off the rocket, one of the rockets, without a guidance chip or anything, so it falls in the water, but sends a rocket
that's right.
off.
He said, "You're the rocket man."
Yeah, so he makes reference to the Elton
yeah.
John song, but we have to make mention of Tony Todd in there. Legendary actor. Who could forget about Tony Todd? But anyway, so now they've dispatched everybody, but we have one big problem. Now everything's good and hunky-dory, but they sent a strike team to Alcatraz to blow it to pieces.
Not just they, but the president himself has okayed this strike team. You know, they're going to wipe out 81 prisoners, the mutiny, and their own agents to spare the city of San Francisco.
Which probably would happen, honestly. And that's not too far-fetched. They were calculating how many lives they could save by killing those lives. So they sent a strike team. It's already in the air. And so Nicolas Cage, remembering from earlier, they were like, once you defuse everything, pop green flares and we'll abort or know that you're safe and come get you. And so they have watchers on the shoreline watching Alcatraz, and Nicolas Cage ends up knocking the flares back, and he runs out onto the balcony. He's got the flares. You see the strike team coming in, and it's almost too late because they drop one bomb and then pull up really quick when they see the smoke. But one bomb kind of goes to the backside of the island and blows Nicolas Cage, no telling how many feet into the water, probably killing him. Honestly, if he doesn't hit a rock in real life, because it is very rocky down there.
No, the explosion, the concussion wave from the explosion would have like popped his internal organs and like led to massive internal bleeding. It wouldn't have even get hit with anything. He just needed to be close to the explosion.
Yeah, but Mason goes and rescues him, so you know he's okay because Mason rescued him and retrieved him. He's going to be all right. You know, all is fine with
James
the world.
Bond. You mean?
So. Yeah.
So he rescues him. They have this moment, and they radio back to him. They're like, in Goodspeed's like, "I'm all well. Everyone's alive." And they celebrate, and they're like, "What about Mason? What about Mason?" He's like, "He's dead, sir. He got vaporized." He was like, "Look, they tore up your pardon. I saw it, so they were never going to let you free." And he's like, "The scuba gear's on the other side of the island. If you go to this hotel room where I was staying, there's $200 and a suitcase or something. Bible. And
it was in the Bible.
And he was like, "Where are you going after this?" And he's like, "Maui." And he's like, "How about this?" And hands like a little note with the address of a church in Kansas. And he says, "Front
Fort Walton, Kansas."
Yeah, front
To be
pew.
specific.
Front pew. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Right leg.
Yeah. So
Front pew, right leg.
Front pew, right leg, and Mason walks off, and then we cut to Goodspeed, just married now, and he's running out of the church in Kansas, and he's like, sorry, and he's got something in his hand, and they drive off, and this is the point where earlier we almost didn't mention this. The reason the FBI has kept Mason under wraps is because he had infiltrated the country and gotten the country's most secretive information ever. And so he knows everything about the U.S., like from JFK assassination to the alien landing in Roswell. He knows everything and can uncork all those mysteries and stuff. And that's what he gives Goodspeed, is like, looks like a can of film that has all this on it. And so now Goodspeed has it and knows all the secrets to the U.S. So I was like, I don't know why that helps him. Now that just makes him a public enemy, number one. So I don't know what he's going to do with that. But that wraps up our movie. Andrew, you've never seen this movie before, so we're gonna throw it to you to start us off. Like, what do you think about this movie as an adult and your first time seeing it?
I mean, I was entertained. Like I said, it kind of follows the script of so many of those movies. They play on repeats on TNT, AMC, USA, that kind of thing. It follows a script. It sticks to it. It knows what it's doing. I will say though, like there are so many elements and so many moments where I was like bullshit, or like if you're gonna like try to make it like cheesy and like dorky, like play into that more. Like I don't want to keep going back to like Con Air, but like Con Air never takes itself too seriously, whereas I feel like this one took itself a little too serious. There were elements that I don't know, it just seemed forced and stupid, but I watched it and I didn't hate myself afterwards. It was entertaining. I loved Sean Connery. He was the best part by far and away, with Ed Harris being a close second. But it's a Nicolas Cage movie, a Nicolas Cage action movie for the 90s. You know what you're getting into. You know exactly what you're getting into, coupled with the fact that it's Michael Bay. There's only there's only a certain distance you can go with a movie like this, and it left me entertained, but there are multiple times where I rolled my eyes or screamed BS or didn't laugh even though I was supposed to. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. It did its job to an extent, and I don't feel like it was a waste of 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Fair. And before we get to you, Kyle, I'll just go ahead and say I agree. As a movie I've seen a lot, I actually really enjoyed this movie. It has a level of nostalgia for me. It reminds me of being back home in Alabama and watching this movie late on a Saturday night. I kind of go into it all the time, not taking it too seriously. There's enough Nicolas Cage humor in it to drum that out. There's a lot of bullshit in this compared to what we talked about last week with Air Force One. You know, Air Force One kind of kept it very realistic, other than like a couple of parts. Maybe here you can rip holes right through it if you want to. I don't think it's the most absurd Michael Bay film, though. Michael Bay considers this his favorite film, and I actually do think it's one of the better Michael Bay films out there. I'd rather watch this than Armageddon or a lot of his other stuff. To me, it's a lot of fun. Yes, it's absurd, but who doesn't love Sean Connery? And I think Nick Cage and Sean Connery make kind of a good duo here. So overall, I still think it's enjoyable to watch. Like Andrew, you nailed it. It's like you just kind of got to know what you're walking into, you know, and you got to know the energy you're getting. And if you do, I think you'll have a good time with it. But Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Not dissimilar to Andrew. I feel like this movie asked for a lot of high stakes, and I just never really felt the high stakes. And it was there, and like it kind of unraveled as you went through it, why the stakes weren't as high, because the general literally says when the mutiny happens, is like, you know, like this is all predicated on the illusion of threat. We were never actually going to do this, so it's over. And I kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. It's almost like a heist movie at that point, but like a really not well done heist movie. But at the same time, it does have a lot of action. It does have a lot of really good action sequences. The aesthetics are good. The gunfights are fun to watch. It's engaging. It has some cool stuff, but then why is it rated R? This is a PG-13 movie that we watched, y'all. That was rated R. Like, yeah. There is nothing in here that I'm like, maybe change one or two things and don't say fuck or whatever, and you're there. And I'm like, to be a rated R movie, you're going to have to, like, do some things to be able to be there. And I just don't think that this movie went there. Air Force One was like that. When we're comparing these two, where it's like, it's almost like a heist of some kind or a hostage situation, that one's so much more well done than this. And I think we're also kind of coming off of a high from that movie of like how well that was directed. It was nominated for fucking Oscar. Like that, it was a really good movie. This is not a really good movie. It's a fun movie, and that's cool, but like it can't go toe to toe with some of those other movies that we've watched recently, even at all. Like this does not even hold a candle to Air Force One, but yet they both kind of be marketed the same. Summer blockbuster, fun movie, big name actors in them, you know, like Harrison Ford, Sean Connery, like, but it just doesn't hold up in the same facet. But very fun movie. You got to love the car chase. Got to love the aesthetics. You got to love, for us, you know, when we were younger, all these really good action movies with the costumes and the arm and like the camo shit and like the tactical gear. Like that shit's fucking cool, and it's still cool in this movie, but it doesn't go anywhere with it.
Yeah,
and that's the issue that I had with it. So good movie doesn't go anywhere where it needs to.
Yeah, and there are worse examples, in my opinion, out there of this same type of movie. I don't think it's the biggest offender, and I do appreciate the fact that they filmed it on location everywhere, and everything looked real, and that's why I agree with you, Kyle. The aesthetics are so amazing because they put a lot of effort into that. But again, Andrew nailed it, and Kyle, you did too. And but you just gotta know what you got to go into.
I want there's certain elements of the plot that I'm like, why Alcatraz? You know, like why Alcatraz?
I get that because you can't just easily go and take that back. It's an easy thing to take over, and you're right there next to San Francisco, so you can launch a missile. That I didn't have an issue with.
But like, why San Francisco? What's the connection there?
I mean, it's just like
I don't think there has to be. I don't think there has to be it's a populated area.
Yeah.
You know?
Why not Memphis, Tennessee?
Because you wouldn't have a
Jacksonville, Florida.
The idea is Alcatraz is so isolated that nobody's
going to be able to get into.
Yeah, that you wouldn't be able to just go take Alcatraz back.
I just think I get the lore and the draw of Alcatraz, but I just think that idea was somewhat of a cheap plot point. Like I said, I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but when we review these things, I have to look at it from a critical lens. That's all I'm doing.
I don't blame you. I have more problems with the gas, the VX gas. They changed the.
Yeah, I agree with Chase. Yeah, I have more issues with some of like how this works, and like, you know, if it detonates here, what does this mean? And like, we had a very interesting, you know, death at the end where, like, by the way, I want you to know, I did look up what this stuff does to you, or what it could do to you. And if you can inoculate yourself beforehand or afterwards, answer, you can't. Like, you can do one of a couple different things, but you would need to have all the medication with you and be monitored and probably on an IV drip.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be able to just they did one thing right.
He put epinephrine in himself. Like, that's all he did. That's not going to stop the gas from eating your fucking skin.
No, he probably bought himself some time, but he's going to be fucked up.
Yeah,
and it's like that's where I have more, like, I think the location, Andrew, didn't really bother me as much because it was like, it is like, they know there's tourists there.
It's cool.
There's always going to be tourists. It's very interesting. Like, it's also really easy to infiltrate. It's not like a high security place that they could get a lot of hostile or like a lot of hostages like quickly, and then also be in the same area as a massive, huge populated city center and surrounding area. And I mean, like, I'm like, there are definitely worse places to pick. I mean, we could have gone back to New York, but how many times do we go to New York for something? How many times do we go to Los Angeles for something? This was like a cooler big city I didn't have a problem as much with.
I guess we talked about it at the beginning, but I would have liked to have had a little more backstory on Hummel's motivation. Maybe there was something there that maybe he was from San Francisco. Maybe his wife was from San Francisco or something like that. If we had something like that, then I wouldn't have even questioned it.
Or maybe him talking about Alcatraz and why it's the perfect spot a little bit more or something like that.
Yeah, something that justifies it, sure.
I agree with you.
There isn't much of a justification other than it's a big name. Alcatraz is a big, shiny name that everyone knows about. I think that's literally why they chose it, and it was just a bit different than all the other terrorist movies we've seen in the past, which, again, doesn't make it that more interesting because they arrived to it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just being a critical ass right now.
You're also bringing up a good point, and I understand. My point was just I can suspend my disbelief for that and be like, okay, cool, we're going to Alcatraz. But when you change the rules on how your biochemical weapon is being used throughout the movie multiple times, because Nicolas Cage is being so careful not to drop any of them. Even when he puts it into a grate, he's so careful and drops it. Why would he take one of those and just cram it in a dude's mouth then? That docked the movie like a point just for that alone.
And it's funny that it docked a point for you because it added a point for me because I was like, finally, he's putting his life on the line for real and being a fucking stand-up person. But I don't disagree at all with like that taking stuff away because why the fuck would you do that? Why would you even expose yourself to that? But it was fucking cool.
It was cool.
And he did fuck that guy's day up.
And that's exactly what Michael Bay's thinking. It doesn't matter. It's cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Andrew, does it hold up though?
Barely.
But you're gonna say yes.
It does.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If this was on TV like 10 o'clock and I was bored on like a lazy Saturday, I'd probably keep it on. Yeah, it barely holds up, but I think it does.
Okay. Kyle, do you think it holds up?
Oof, this is tough. And I don't want to do this movie an injustice because the aesthetics are cool. It was shot on location. I think having one character tied to the actual location, like if we weren't shooting at Alcatraz or this wouldn't take place in Alcatraz, Sean Connery's character wouldn't be in the movie. They could have done it elsewhere, sure. But the location, some of the shots are pretty well done, even though it is a nightmare. And it's hard to follow when you get into the actual action sequence of it. Everything up until they get there is easy to follow, but when they get in there, it's like, fuck, what does this happen? What happens then? Oh, that's right. It's a little hard to follow.
Blow by blow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as easy to follow along with as it was for Air Force One. But,
yeah,
it's not hateful. It is fun, but it's not something I'm going to, seek out, to be quite honest with you. So this is a very hard, by the skin of its teeth, holds up.
Okay. I'm not in disagreement with either one of you. I do think it is more of a suspend your disbelief going in with a Michael Bay film. It does do a lot of stupid stuff, but I'm going to say it holds up just basically because we talk about it at length. Put the practical effects in camera, boys. I'm going to give you high marks on that and the effort that they did here. Visually looks good. I think the first half of this movie is really good, and I think the second half of this movie is convoluted mess. I think if they just kind of landed, they started it really well. Like I said, I really love the way that the Hummel's character is written, and the fact that he's just an honorable guy trying to do right by his soldiers. I kind of like that from a general standpoint. But then just after that, and then kill him off. When they kill him off too, it gets worse. But I do say it holds up. Andrew, if you gave it an IMDb score, what would you give it?
I don't normally do even numbers, but I'm going to do a straight, just a 6.
Okay.
Just a 6.
I was going to say 6.1, so me and you were right on scale there. Kyle, what would you give it?
So again, this is going to be a little unprecedented. I think you and Andrew aren't going to like this, but for me, I know it holds up, but the score is a 5.1.
Okay, that's fair.
And I know that's not a
fair.
passing. I know, but here's the thing: that's not a passing grade if we're looking at it from that lens. So
it's really
I
not.
think that's what I have.
That's why I barely gave it a 6.
Yeah, and I have to
anything
preface
below
this by
a 6
saying
for me. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
is a fail. No, I agree. It's anything below a 6 for me also is that's a fail. That's not. It doesn't hold up. But because it is right there in the middle, truly teetering for me, I can't say it doesn't hold up because I would watch it again, but I'm not going to seek this movie out. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is I think I have to do this. It does hold up, but it gets a failing grade. It gets a 5.1.
I mean, that's fair. I think that those two can be different things because you're talking about it from a hold up standpoint of another viewer that may love action movies, may go out and really like this movie, and it's worth a watch for them over a modern action movie. And you're saying it's not for me, but I think you can look at those two different things. But yeah, no, Andrew, do we know what the actual IMDb score is? I bet it's high.
Y'all want to guess?
It's in the sevens. It's in the sevens. It's got to be in the sevens.
Is it in the sevens? Wow.
Well, I
was going to say 6.4 to 6. I was going to say, Chase, you go.
I want to say 7.1 or 7.2.
Kyle?
I'll give it a 6.6.
It's 7.4 on IMDb.
God.
Jesus right.
I knew it. I knew it was going to get.
What?
I knew it was going to get high remarks.
That's awful. That's awful. Like, I'm sorry. That's bullshit.
I have a soft
You
spot.
know?
I do have a soft spot in my heart for this movie, but I can't even give it a 7 for that.
Kyle, before we move on, Kyle, I want you to say a line by Connery in this. It was the one where he talks about losers talk about doing their best.
Oh, yeah.
Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. I want you to say
queen.
that in your Sean Connery voice, because I feel it would just hit.
Losers talk about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Yes, thank you. I just needed to hear that.
A final fact is Sean Connery improvised that line too.
That's fun.
Well, you know what we do around here. We look inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Today we found out The Rock holds up. By the skin of its teeth, according to Kyle. By the skin of its teeth, according to Andrew. But we found out it does hold up. Andrew, what are we doing next week? It's World Cup celebration. It's the end of the World Cup, right?
Sad. I am sad that we're past the World Cup. I very much enjoyed this tournament this year. It's been quite fun, even though
Great.
The U.S. got absolutely embarrassed by Belgium. We're going to stay on that theme. Yeah, we got our cocks torn in half. We're gonna put on Kicking and Screaming, the Will Ferrell, Robert Duvall, Mike Ditka special,
Nice.
Josh Hutcherson as well, and just kind of see how we feel about it in our ripe 30s.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're watching this because I was just actually catching a few shots of this movie on a brand new 75-inch plasma screen TV at my local Costco. And I just want to take this time to, again, thank Kirkland Signature Products for all they do for the podcast. And Andrew, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, Kirkland Signature understands our voice as we understand theirs. Our message, our motive is the same. We both want to deliver a great product to the people at an affordable rates and accessible rates. And that's why we make such a good team. As our visions co-align, our values are one and the same. And they're just good friends. They're good friends to us. They care about us. They care about our mission as we care about theirs. And we wouldn't be anywhere where we are now this day without the help of our friends at Kirkland Signature. We love you. We thank you. And we're forever indebted to what you give us and the world.
Great. If you want to become a supporter, Kyle, where can people reach out to support the show? Keep the lights on.
You can go to our Patreon and you can give us money. And we actually have a new tier that we talked about before we went on this episode. And it is a one-time donation of $250,000. And when you finally decide to do that, one lone listener, you can be one of the only subscribers on our Patreon to have donated that amount. And it gets you the feeling of pride saying, I donated that amount of money. We don't really have anything else. It's a thankless donation. You will not get shouted out. In fact, we might even degrade and demean you on the show for giving us that kind of money. But that is going to be a new tier that Chase is going to be adding in here soon. A $250,000 one-time donation to give money. So thank you.
But if that's not in the cards, you can do a $3 donation to be a supporter, $5 donation to be a nostalgic nerd, and $8 donation to be a nostalgic producer, meaning you can tell us what the fuck to do, and we'll do it.
Anything.
Right.
Tell us anything.
We'll do it. Anything.
Well said, Kyle. Great save, Andrew. So you can follow us right there on Patreon, and we will see you all next week when we review Kicking and Screaming to send the World Cup a farewell from the Hold Up crew. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.